Joining us now to discuss this is Adam Roosevelt. He's a military and political analyst. Welcome back to BNC Live, Adam.
Thank you, Laverne. Good to see you as always.
Good to see you also. Adam, I want to talk to you about this from your perspective. You have served, of course, in the military. You were overseas in Afghanistan. You know about the use of these type of weapons that we are hearing about here on the streets of America. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, first I'll say, Laverne, as you know, I identify with the conservative movement on the Second Amendment, but I do understand that we're facing a very interesting crisis right now across the country with what type of weapons are on the streets, how those weapons are being used, and who's using those weapons. So I think, we have to have some responsibility from a lawmaker perspective, but we also need to honor the Constitution at the same time. It's going to be very difficult with Republicans and Democrats kind of at different ends of the spectrum on the issue. But I think right now the big thing is making sure people who should not have weapons, such as we can start looking at that. And as I mentioned yesterday, prosecution and making sure the laws are in place to prosecute those who are effectively using weapons for malicious activity.
Well, there are laws in place. It doesn't seem to be deterring people. We know there's been Sandy Hook and the Parkland shooting. We've been hearing about gun control, since Reagan, in the 80s. What can we do about it now? I mean, you say you're an advocate, you agree with the conservative movement. What's the answer? You can't say, well, we go after the murderers, because by then it's too late. The people are already deceased.
Yeah, preemptive action, I think right now, based on what we're seeing, is going to be these background checks. I think that's the major focus right now in Congress is what is a suitable background check? What are the measures being checked against? And again, I'll say folks that have got, felonies, folks that have got mental illnesses, we have precursors that are in place right now with the medical records that could effectively be used to kind of start to target individuals who are specifically at risk based on being a felon in those categories. So I think we have somewhere to start. But I think once we get past that conversation, Laverne, and we start looking at every category, we're unfortunately in a situation where the government has overreach, and that's not where we want to be.
Well, when you say overreach, how do they have overreach if you're seeing these type of tragedies happening? How is that overreach when they're trying to protect the American people?
Yeah, Laverne, it's a great conversation because I'll tell you what, the whole thing about the Second Amendment, right, wasn't just so that individuals could protect themselves, protect their homes, but it was also to be able to protect themselves from the government. There were times in our history where the government deployed soldiers to occupy locations such as citizens' houses, and they weren't able to defend themselves. We never want to go back to a position where our citizens don't have the ability to protect themselves. There is a important position for the government to play, but there's a fair amount of control and there's a fair amount of legislation that has to be passed and effectively monitored to continue to, one, provide some type of ability to secure the community, protect it, but also defend our constitutional rights as well in the process.
Adam, you're talking about protecting yourself from the government coming into your house. I mean, what are you going to do? Shoot them and then you end up going to jail for the rest of your life? I mean, the argument to me, and I understand what you're saying, but the argument seems so far removed from the actual crisis, which is people going to the grocery store and getting gunned down.
Well, let me give you an example of government overreach. We saw with Edward Snowden, and I hate to bring this up, but I'll just give you an example. The prison program was a program that was operated by the U.S. government that effectively used tools to surveil the American people without having the jurisdiction or the authority to do so. See, Laverne, we look at this not just from today, but the overall picture of protecting the American people and all of their individual rights, from gun rights to privacy rights to protection. So as an advocate, as a leader, I look at the whole threat picture, and I can't allow the government to slowly encroach on those unalienable rights because it's too late, Laverne, 20, 30 years from now when all of those issues, particularly within what we're talking about, the government has a larger position to control and effectively enforce their authority over the American people, and we can't allow that.
Well, Adam, this is quite a debate, and I understand the points you're raising. We appreciate it as always. We're out of time, but I'm going to think about this, and you think about this, because I want to talk to you again about this. We certainly haven't. We've just scratched the surface, and there's certainly a lot of things, a lot of points you raised there that need further examination. So we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. But Adam, like I said, think about it. I want to talk to you again about this. Okay?
I'll think about it. Thank you, Laverne. Always good to see you.
Okay. Take care. Good to see you too.